Scions of the Southland number 321. You got Jack Purdy here. You got Akshay Easwaran here. It is what's today? Sunday, July 12th, or one of our, I don't know, 1 to 3 July episodes we'll do this month. Possibly, it might just be one. We'll see. Actually, no, there's going to be a second one. We know of a second one and can't say much about it. But nonetheless, today is a different kind of episode. Not much current talk. We'll get to the baseball news today from the NLE draft. But with us today, we have John Bird of multiple tech fame between Rambling Rec Club, between starting from the Rumble seat back way back when, before either I or Akshay were applying for colleges and other things like that. And we just thought John would be a great guy to talk with about the big frame of mind of tech fandom and how this year was very impactful in a lot of ways, and just what it's been like to be a tech fan for a longer than we've been out here. So John, thanks for hanging out with us.
Thanks, Jack. Very
Uh,
excited.
this will be fun. Firstly, just to level set. What's your what's your story of how you got to tech? What got you to want to go to the
Mm,
school, and how did that all come about?
oh boy. Yeah, so really just grew up in Georgia, just east of Atlanta, a little town called Loganville, Georgia. And knew a girl whose dad worked in the polymer textile fiber engineering school, and he got me a scholarship to that school. So I was one of like five or six people left in that major. And so when I graduated, I think I was the last one. And then I got a postcard in the mail in like 2010. They said, we've, dissolved your major and moved it into the material science engineering. But textile engineering was one of the older schools at Tech. But
Yep.
anyways, that's kind of how I got into tech, was just that scholarship and just helping me afford college in general. Was just so that was really what got me in. So I wasn't like a diehard tech fan. I knew very not much about tech in general, other than I wanted to be an engineer and I liked, math and science and things like that from my high school days. And so that kind of drew me into the institute, if you will, was that scholarship. And so then I got to tech and I went to the Auburn game where we won. That was pretty exciting. The home game where we upset number one. I think
Nice.
we're number one or number two Auburn, and they had all the stars on their team still. That won the national championship the next year.
Mhm.
But Reggie Ball, big upset there at Auburn or at home against Auburn, and that kind of lit the fire. And then the next game we got destroyed at home by Clemson. But I got kind of fixated on the Ramblin' Wreck. I was like, that's a really cool thing. Like,
Yeah.
I just love the way the Ramblin' Wreck was such a unique part of our football team, and like no other college teams had anything similar to that. So at that game, that Clemson game, I think we lost 39-3. I'd have to Google it. But it was kind of like that was kind of like the par for course for Chan Gailey games, was like you would either win like 14-10 or you'd lose like 50-3. But anyways, that was the game where I was like, I want to be the Ramblin' Wreck driver. So I kind of set out to figure out how that mechanism worked and how you became a Ramblin' Wreck driver, how Ramblin' Wreck Club worked,
Mhm.
and then I got into Ramblin' Wreck Club my second year at Tech, and then I became the wreck driver in 2007. So I was a Ramblin' Wreck driver in 2007, um, and then unfortunately, on the way to a wedding, uh, had a little trailering mishap, and we totally destroyed the Ramblin' Wreck. It was me and my little brother were driving to Savannah, so it was pretty terrible. It was June 15th, 2007, and oh my gosh, it's almost 20 years. What, 19
Almost
years
there.
ago? Wow.
Yeah.
So 19 years ago, had 85 days to kick off to get the Ramblin' Wreck repaired, and so just a lot of alumni gave a lot of money, and we had a couple shops work on the vehicle to get it really back to working order. And we got the car back on the field for the Sanford game. It wasn't ready for Notre Dame. Notre Dame was a road game, but even then,
Yeah.
Notre Dame's like they actually asked us for the dimensions of the car because we were thinking about possibly going to Notre Dame,
Mm.
but they actually wouldn't fit through the player tunnels at the time.
Oh, interesting. Huh.
So yeah, so 2007 Notre Dame, which was a great game, we just totally destroyed Notre Dame. I think it was their worst home loss ever, where they brought in what was his name? I can't remember. Anyways, we couldn't get the car into the field at Notre Dame, but it wouldn't have been ready anyways.
Yeah.
So Sanford was really the first game where it actually would run and have like a top on it and have the appropriate machinations of a car.
Right.
And so we got it on the field for 2007, and we had a mediocre season, and they fired Chan Gailey at the end of the season. And then I graduated in December 2007. I stayed on for an extra semester. I took ancient Greek philosophy so that I could be the rec driver.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah, that was the only class I took. I think I got a D. I don't remember because
These,
I just asked the professor to just pass me so I could, because I already had a job.
yeah,
And he said, okay. And so then I moved to the Carolinas. I've been in the Carolinas ever since. And
nice.
so I've been a road tech fan. So I've gone to lots of road games because I live very close to the Triangle. So I go to a lot
Hmm.
of NC State, Duke, UNC games. Not many Wake games. Wake's about 2 hours away, but I've been to a few Clemson games. Clemson's a little bit further away too. But yeah, that's kind of what my fandom now is like. I'm a road
Yeah.
warrior. Going to UVA and Virginia Tech games. I've seen a lot of really unfortunate Virginia Tech games. But yeah, so that's that. And then, so right after I graduated, I had a job where I didn't have a whole lot of responsibility, and so I had a lot of free time. And so Winfield's like, hey, so Winfield Featherston Tufts, he was a fourth Legacy Tech alumni, and he had started this blog called Legacy X4. So that's what it's called. The Legacy X4 was
Hmm.
he's a four-time Legacy Tech grad, and and right as the time I was joining with him, SB Nation asked us to join as a new blog, but they're like, you need a better name. So that's where we came up with the term from the rumble seat because we were both wreck drivers, and the rumble seat is actually the trunk that converts into a spare seat in the back of the
Yeah.
car. So that's where the term from the rumble seat came from because it's like literally, well, I don't know if that's the correct use of literal, but literally from our mouths, from our to our hands and the keyboard would be from the rumble seat because we were both former wreck drivers. So that's kind of where the term the from the rumble seat came from was just the fact that me and Winfield were both wreck drivers. I think he would been so he'd been the 2009 wreck driver. So
Yeah.
2008 would have been Brandon Kearse. And then yeah, so I did I helped Winfield do from the rumble seat. Our blog was a lot drier than your guys's from the rumble seat. You guys are a lot more narrative and better writers than we are. Most of mine were really stat heavy, analysis into field position and things like that. Like a lot of sites out there. So I would go through and totally dissect the play by plays and just put them into Excel and just run them through Excel. Spend like way too much time on one post, and then we'd have that post um and then like 10 people would view it and then it would be the next one, so that was kind of the nature of our content. The only thing we ever wrote, not wrote, but the only thing we ever posted, Winfield was more of the color guy. The only colorful one I remember in particular, we got like a million. I don't know how many views we got. We got a lot. And I knew it went viral because it was, my wife asked me about it and she doesn't know anything about sports. It was one of the Uggas had passed away and Winfield had somebody paint an oil painting of the Ramblin' Wreck running through the graveyard of Uggas. And he posted this oil painting on from the rumble seat of Uga getting the Ramblin' Wreck
Oh
just
man.
spewing mud everywhere.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many views we got. It was in the AJC. It was in all these other newspapers. We're all mad at these like really bitter tech kids. And my wife was like, "Hey, uh, my friends, my wife's like South Carolina and Clemson fans because she lives in South Carolina, and she's like, my friends are telling me about these jerks from Georgia Tech that posted about the dog dying."
God. Oh my God.
I've actually
And
just found it.
yeah.
It took a little bit of Googling, but I guess that was this one. This post is from 2009, so it's from the very, very old, but this is an even funnier
The
one
link,
from,
the link is not broken. The link is in
Oh
fact
yeah,
not
that same
broken.
yeah, it
artist.
still
Yeah.
works.
Yeah, that same
It still
artist. He
works.
had that one. That I don't know what the other one. Oh, there it is.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
so there
second
were,
one is the one that got people really mad. Speed bump. Yeah.
that's incredible.
Whew.
So that was a different time with Destiny Nation, and I don't know if you guys have more constraints and requirements around what y'all post, but we got a lot of hate mail and a lot of interesting comments on that
Oh
one.
man. Yeah.
It's very like fresh, like it was very raw.
No, that makes sense. So I think there's been some days we've had to be a little bit more level-headed, possibly in some other ways. But now that
Yeah.
there's an actual relationship with the athletic department, there is some like, okay,
Yeah.
maybe don't do this thing every so often just to
Yeah.
stay in the good graces and things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. So
I
you'll definitely have a more professional setup going now than
yeah,
we were. We're just kind of fans really writing a post on a, SB Nation.
yeah,
So, um, and so then, I had kids and, just time changed and, I just didn't have the time for blogging and writing on From the Rumble Seat. And we passed it on to Joey and Nate. And
yep,
so they were kind of the next
yep.
generation, which was great. They picked it up and they ran with it. And again, I just had the time and the heart to do it. And, picked up that part that, we really had a lot of pride in From the Rumble Seat. We liked it a lot. And we'd have random fans run into us at games and talk to us about the blog and things like that.
That's great.
But it was fun. It was a fun process to have that level of depth because it forces you to get a level of depth of the game
Right.
that no one else has. No one has near the level of depth when you're analyzing the data and creating posts that are really, you want to be well thought out and
Yeah.
have good logic behind them or good arguments behind them. Because I remember one of the worst, situations I dealt with when we were first writing From the Normal Seat. I know I'm talking a lot. I don't know if y'all need me to shut up or
I'll get there eventually.
yeah. Yeah, I remember the one of the more contentious time periods for us was Paul Hewitt leaving, and he had put us to the highest heights in basketball,
Right.
really, to
Yeah.
me, ever in the modern era. And um, we wrote a lot of posts about just the deterioration of the basketball program, and we were having the radio stations call us and interview us and ask us why Tech is turning on him. And it was just qualitative,
Yeah.
quantitatively, the basketball team was just terrible, and he was getting draft picks, but they just weren't doing anything. Like they were be like, and you could almost correlate almost everything that Paul Hewitt's teams did to television or not. Because back then everything wasn't televised. When they were
Right. Yeah.
televised, they'd blow the team out. They had all these NBA players on the team. Well, it
Yeah.
wasn't televised to 4-30 UVA, and so it was a very bizarre end of that career. And I just remember that being a relatively challenging time to write too. So we kind of it was interesting. It was from the normal seat. We had the peaks of like some of Paul Johnson's best teams. We had the depths of the end of Paul Hewitt's era. Baseball was, okay. But yeah, and I could talk about baseball all day. I love the baseball team. But anyways, that's kind of the backstory for me. And yeah, I've just like I said, I've been kind of a road warrior the last 20 years since I left Tech, since I got out. And I haven't been to a home game. This is sad to say, but
Wow.
the last home football game I went to was Citadel.
Oh no.
It
Well,
was got to be
I,
the
f-
worst you could think of.
I feel like we can do better this year if you make it down. Um, I
So
did.
yeah, yeah, that's my intro in a nutshell there for you. So
Oh, that's great. That's great. I did go back and check this Notre Dame game you mentioned, and yeah, this was I think the debut of Jimmy Clausen, and we beat them
yeah,
33
I
to
think it was
3.
also Charlie Weiss's first game,
It
if
was Charlie.
I'm not mistaken.
Charlie Weiss. What I'm looking at text recap, which is 5 paragraphs, but it says Fighting Irish coach Charlie Weiss kept his choice of starting quarterback secret
Second,
until game time, hoping that preparing for 3 quarterbacks would make it tough on Tech's defense. And
it didn't
yeah,
matter.
no, it didn't matter. Not in the slightest.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it was Casey Clausen's little brother. I was going to say, I was like, it's Casey Clausen, but I cannot remember his little brother's name. So Jimmy Clausen, yeah.
yeah,
hey, future at that point, future Cleveland Brown Jimmy Clausen. I'm sure he
Yeah.
did a lot of
he's
stuff in the NFL.
he's on that guy's jersey with 18 different quarterback names on it,
Yeah.
somewhere in there.
I
That
honestly, Jack, we might be on that jersey at
Yeah.
this point.
I could throw one completion in the flat. I think
Oof.
possibly something like that. No, it's great to hear just that whole narrative, just how the site came about and everything. Um, when see looking back at, I mean, obviously you've been in the North Carolina side of things, which we have a lot of alums out there, which has been good to have. And I know I've come up for a number of games in the last couple of years up there just because it's a pretty relatively easy drive and we've drawn good crowds. I remember last season at Duke we had a lot of people up there. Um, even though Duke's fans didn't really exactly show up for that game, sadly. But nonetheless, how has there been any like measurable or at least to your eye like change in the fan base or change in just how the fan base has gone about being a Georgia Tech fan base? Because population of the school has grown. It's definitely gotten more diverse in the last 20 years or so. They've been more intentional about getting Georgia people, but still like getting a pretty diverse band of folks around the country and around the world. So is that been something that's impressed upon you at all? Uh,
No, I mean, I wouldn't say that. I think that you don't see much tech. That's the one. That's what I always say is like the best thing about North Carolina is you never see the Green Bay G ever.
that's true.
So,
That's
so
true.
same thing. Is you don't see a lot of Georgia Tech either. I mean, there's so many Tar Heel and NC State fans here. It's pretty much saturated the college market, the bandwagon market here. With
Y-
we got so many double A or one A teams here, Division I teams. They've just
Yeah.
got, and then plus ECU and Wake Forest, and you just got a ton of college teams that have done something recently versus in Georgia where it's really just Tech in Georgia.
Yeah.
And so you just don't see a lot of Tech stuff here. But yeah, the only thing I'll tell you what I've noticed the biggest thing as a fan, a remote fan watching this, I tracked attendance forever and just watching the attendance, like with even with Chan Gailey's bad teams, we'd have 50,000 people in a game.
Yeah. It held up. Yeah.
And it's crazy to see like some of the Paul Johnson era where we had like 30,000 people, 20,000 people at games. I'm like, I cannot believe how much television has changed the dynamic of the fandom too.
Hmm.
I'm sure that's what it is. Every game's televised now. It used to be everything was on radio or if that. And I think and I'm assuming that's what y'all assume it is, but um, just the accessibility to the games. Like I watched every single baseball game this year on TV. It's like that there would have been no baseball games on
Yeah.
TV.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not even barely College World Series games were televised in 2006. So, so that's kind of a difference too, is just access to games and sporting events that you didn't have, or you might have had Game Tracker for baseball games and 20 years ago, and you have everything now.
Right.
I mean, even like you're talking about ESPN paying millions of dollars for those tier 3 rights, right? So
Hmm.
you're like even the like, softball's probably tier 2, but even like thinking about the ACC's conference sports like gymnastics, there's not that many ACC gymnastics teams. Like ACC lacrosse is probably a tier 2 sport for ESPN. But you can actually subdivide not just the football and the basketball. You can go 3 deep for all these different conferences and allocate, okay, well, we're paying $5 million or end up millions of dollars per school for this tranche of sports, which is
Hmm.
not something that we are really doing. I mean, even 10 years ago, right? Like, let alone 20.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
when ESPN came out, that was like game changing because it was like, oh my gosh, there's 3 games on instead of 2. It's
Yes.
so amazing.
No. Yeah.
Yeah,
Now you
I
can.
mean, I like came of age in like sorry to cut you off, Jack, but like my tech fandom came of age like right when streaming really hit like saturated the market, right? So that 2015, like 2014, 2015, where you could now throw like, hey, now I got a game on the TV and I have 3 games on my laptop and my tablet and my
Mhm.
phone, and now like you can have like 4 on the TV and then 2 on the computer and one you can
Mhm.
watch
Right.
basically every game that's on at the same time. At the same time, now I don't know how much you're going to get out of watching 8 games at once,
Yeah.
but the fact remains that you could actually do it, right? So to your point, it's like the saturation, like the market has shifted so much to where, okay, well, I don't have to drive into Midtown, find a parking spot, go
Mhm.
buy concessions and sit in the stadium. I can just do this from my couch. And yeah, it's like, hey, it's now really accessible if you're, say, someone that's living in San Francisco, like I was for a couple of years, and having to, effectively telecommute to games like this. But if you like, it does disincentivize your local fans, and there's all
Mhm.
things about like you can get into why baseball and hockey still do blackouts in that way and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. But it is just like a massive shift in how we
That was what they
consume
did for the
sports
tech games
media.
this year, right? The baseball games were blacked out. I remember seeing all the angry Facebook posters because Tech had blacked out many of our games, the big games this year for baseball, right?
I didn't even notice,
Yeah.
honestly. I
Oh
think
yeah.
ESPN
Yeah.
because of the ESPN contracts is like you don't like I didn't even
Yeah.
notice when I wanted to go watch a
Yeah.
game.
Yeah, I think
That's
they must have a regional ability to, I don't know what they did, but I just remember so many people just street the Facebook or the Georgia Tech baseball Facebook group was just blowing up with comments
Oh
like,
man.
"You gotta watch this game." Oh, it was the
Right.
Georgia game in particular too, right? The Georgia game was
Well, that game
Oh,
wasn't that game isn't broadcasted
yeah,
because
yeah.
because Children's Health Care of Atlanta runs that game and the team specifically do not
Mhm.
pull revenue from that game,
Right.
which inherently would happen if they televised it and had ESPN involved and things like
Yeah, so
that.
maybe I'm
Yeah.
misspeaking. Maybe it was just the Georgia game that I remember that from.
I think it was just that because we were able to get all the because it's ESPN Plus and ESPN Plus isn't geotagged really at all. That's just like
Mm,
the paying for
okay,
the very
yeah.
expensive
there
bundle.
you
And
go.
now they have three other tiers that don't mean anything that I
It's
can't
like
even tell.
Delta. It's like Delta.
Yes.
With now they're subdividing. This is what Jake should be here for, so we can do 20 minutes on
What business
airline
class
SKUs.
business class but coach I don't know what the hell they did. It was so weird. Yeah, they really just stratifying it even more and more. um I wonder how, I mean, yeah, I think in terms of attendance, I mean, I got there at the tail end of Paul, so I got that Minnesota bowl game, which was what the game
Mhm.
in Detroit, and then the
Rip
very
that.
I
That
know
game no longer exists.
I know. And then the whimper of an end
Mhm.
the year after that, and then the clown car show that came immediately after, where we were for no good reason figuring out if it was important that we had record spring game attendance in program history or something dumb like that. Uh,
I will say,
it's
Jack, before you transition to this,
yeah,
it is interesting to bring that up, and especially John, when you mentioned some of the highs and lows of that Paul Hewitt and Paul Johnson and Chan Gailey those eras. Look, at one point during the Jeff Collins football tenure, I think Jake and I were just talking about like local Atlanta restaurants on this instead of talking about football every week because the
Oh,
results
yeah,
got so burdensome. Which,
uh,
like,
yeah.
there's something to be said about like checking out a little bit, but at the
mhm.
same time, it's like it's a interesting relation, or it's like a give and take relationship between
Right.
the team and you as a fan. And sometimes, if the team isn't necessarily respecting your time and the investment that you're putting into it,
Yeah.
No, I mean that makes sense because nowadays, yeah, it's like if Brent has three bad seasons in a row, let's pray to God he's here for 50 years or whatever. But like if he has three bad seasons, it's probably not going to be like how it was for Gailey, where it's like, no, it's fine. We'll still pull 45,000 in the stadium. Like it's gonna go down to 35 or 30,
Yeah.
because it's just a different time. Like I mean, there's so much more stuff to
Chan
just do.
Chan's fortunate was his, I don't know what you call it, but like his excuse was like first season they had this thing called Flunkgate where like half the players failed out of tech and all of his starters failed out. It was a
Mm.
disaster. And then so then 2002 was just a trash season. And he had a guy that transferred in named AJ Suggs as a starting quarterback from Tennessee. And then he had Reggie Ball was his first year, was 2003. That was my
Hmm.
freshman year. And so like Reggie Ball was his like first starter. And then he hitched his wagon to him. And they just never really got
Yeah.
good. In that Reggie Ball era, just I mean, when we finally got to the place where Chan was bringing in recruits, he had just made everybody so mad with just his futility of a coach, his coaching ability. But we had
Yeah.
so much talent that he just handed over to Paul Johnson's 2008, 2009 teams.
Yeah.
But that's what kind of stunk about the Chan Gailey era, just hitching. I'm not trying to beat up on Reggie Ball, but just I think there was a different, to my perspective on that was like quarterbacks didn't look like they do now.
Not
Like
at all.
everybody
Yeah.
now has a freaking laser arm, and they've all been playing pee wee football, and they've got super specialist QB coaches and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Back then, you had a mix of like Philip Rivers throwing sidearm, and you had
Yeah. Yeah.
you
You're right.
know
Yeah.
you had
Yeah.
Reggie Ball throwing gooses down 50 yards, and so like we had in my fandom. This is a weird stat. I looked it up actually to make sure this was right, and it was like from 2003 to 2012, we didn't have a 50% passer at Tech. So like we had 9 years where no one completed 50% of passes. One year we had a guy that completed 35%. It's like
Jeez.
it's
No
just
wonder we had to quit passing the ball.
so
It
it was
didn't work.
just yeah, some of that was Paul Johnson, right? Like and then
Yeah.
some of it and all of it was I mean, even with Chan Gailey's teams, none of them ever completed 50% except for AJ Suggs. He's the only starter. Even Taylor Bennett couldn't complete 50% of his passes. It was just like it was just I feel like there was a different level of training for like private trainers and things like that. And
Hmm.
so that's now you're seeing a lot more elite athletes and precision, I think, in training and things like that. So now the
Oh yeah, for
quarterback
sure.
is better.
Yeah, though
So
I think if you get if Reggie Ball came up now, he's easily a lot stronger probably in
yeah.
terms of just his
Mhm.
raw ability to just put more zip on the ball. He's gonna have more focused drills to be like, hey, throw it to Calvin above his head, then like down to his feet too at the same
Uh,
time. Getting that zone more locked in.
yeah.
Like he absolutely like it. It's just good
And
guy,
what
just
hurt
wrong
us with
time
those
for
years
him.
too was that Calvin, you only developed Calvin, and like it was because Calvin developed himself. So like
Yeah,
that's what
right.
Western would always say is like Western would say all the players on the field are only good because of Calvin. Like he is driving
Yeah,
everybody. He is so motivated, and you just watch the offense was 100% centered around him. And like they did not even think about throwing to second receivers. James
yeah,
Johnson was one of the second receivers, and then Demarius Bilbo was the second receiver. And they just didn't even think about throwing to those guys half the time. You know, there was just the plays were
right.
obviously designed around getting Calvin into double coverage instead of triple coverage. And so it was just very, yeah. If you go back and watch any of those games, you guys would be like, well, the offense is very vanilla. It's hard to
Yeah,
watch. It's hard to watch
yeah,
replays other than Calvin Johnson highlights. It's so hard to watch those games and
right,
replay. It's so horribly, the offense is so dry and vanilla. Uh,
right. I think
so
it's part of. I mean, I imagine watching this past couple seasons with Haynes and everything that the offense was able to do. That had to be somewhat refreshing just to like
yeah,
see a baseline level of competency and strategy going on,
yeah,
knowing you had multiple weapons that could be like, hey, there's three different guys that can beat you on a play. You just don't
yeah.
know how we're going to beat you on this play. It's not like Haynes is going to run for 55 yards. He can if he wants, but like
Yeah.
we still got Rutherford who can go find a seam and do stuff like that, and or Singleton in the past.
Yeah.
I imagine that was a nice bit of football to
Yeah,
be
it's a
able to
little bit of a
watch.
reprieve from the Jeff Collins era was pretty. I don't know if we can even talk about that era, but it was just such a disaster. That I mean, that is by I can't think of like a worse sporting era in a single sport than the Jeff Collins era. Like in thinking back in the last 20 years, I just
Yeah,
like the basketball. Yeah, there are probably some of those basketball teams of the Brian Gregory's and maybe where we finished like last in ACC, but it's just not the same because we didn't have, I don't know, we have like kind of this expectation of always at least getting 7 wins in football, it feels like the
right.
chain daily seven. Like that should be your baseline and then you should get above that. Versus in basketball, it's not the same. Like that's kind of like how NC State is in basketball. It's like they always want to be 500 in ACC and then that's great. And so for us in football, that Jeff Collins era was such a blight. So it's it's interesting. It's just because I'm looking back at like before I got on with you guys, I was like, what are the highlights of my like tech fandom and those eras right immediately prior to Jeff Collins. It's
Yeah,
all it is. It's like all
yeah.
those times and yeah. So anyway, sorry to bounce around so much. I've
No, you're
got a
fine. You're fine. I mean, it's. I think if you like did like an XY axis graph and like just the top right corner is like having more fun or like value of your tech fandom. Like it's
Mhm.
very steadily up and it's going in the right direction, but it's going up and down very like looking like a stock market graph basically. But then
Mhm.
there's an absolute crash and it kind of resets the entire thing almost
Mhm.
for a lot of it burns a lot of people out for sure. Like I mean, I remember going to those final Collins games as a student and just no one was in the student section. Like it was just empty for those
Yeah.
last bit of games. No one wanted to go. And then the first game after the first home game Key took over, which was the Duke game that we won in overtime. The life of the party came right back. Like it was just like there was just people were just waiting for the thing just to be done with, and
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
it hit a new surge, and it's been working so far. It's been perfect, but it's been back on that train of like, all right, there's gonna be some bad games, but like it's going in the direction you need to at least be at that baseline 7 win level. Um,
Mm.
Even for this year, where I think we're not even rated to like finish in the top half of the ACC, it's like, well, no one, you wouldn't expect it because if you watch Tech football the last 10 years, that's if we don't know how good they're going to be, they're probably going to suck. But nowadays, it's like, okay, maybe it's not that. So I don't know.
Well, it's also that like random number generator effect of the ACC, right? It's like
Uh,
you can even as like an advanced stats person, you look at the even like what used to be the ACC coastal and now probably like the midsection to the bottom quartile of the ACC, and you're like, these are all 50-50 games. These are all coin
Right.
flips. You don't really know what's going to happen from that point forward. And you just sort of have to you throw your hands up and be like, okay, well, we'll see what happens on that given
Yeah.
Saturday
Right.
when we get there.
Yeah. Uh, I did want to ask, John. I know you brought your family out to the ACC championship game for baseball. What has it been like passing tech fandom onto your kids?
Oh, yeah, that's
How?
an interesting question.
Because I know I inherited Auburn fandom growing up. I got my first national championship was the Cam Newton year. I've distanced myself slightly just because it's Auburn. It's not. It was just kind of what I had for myself, but it it was definitely a very formative experience growing up in an SEC household. And so I've never gotten the experience. I'll never have the experience of growing up in a tech household necessarily. Hopefully, I get to pass it on to some people someday.
Mhm.
But like, how has been channeling your experience through to the younger generation been?
Yeah, so that's a good question because it's like I what I was thinking about today was like, all right, so what is the difference between NC State or a Duke and a UNC road game? And it's like it's really like the traditions. Like when
Mm,
you go to those games, it feels very like cookie cutter vanilla. I'm saying vanilla too much, but very cookie cutter. Like all three stadiums, if you were to change the colors, you couldn't tell where you were.
yeah,
And if you knew the fight songs, maybe, yeah. If you know the fight songs of those three teams, you would know. Because like digital, there's not anything like analog about them like there are at Tech's games. So the traditions of the Tech atmosphere and
mm,
the Ramblin' Wreck, the Budweiser song, the Buzz running around, like even their mascots are like very like controlled. They're
right,
not
yeah,
doing crazy stuff like Buzz.
yeah,
And so generally go to the games, the best part is the Budweiser song, which is sad to say. Like when you go to a Duke or UNC, the actual only crowd interaction part is the Tech fans, the road fans. So yeah, it's been interesting passing on to the kids because it's like it's been tough because they really want to go to a home game, a Tech game, and see that skyline and see the Tech stadiums and the stories I
right,
tell them. But to me, that's been what's made it easiest is just the traditions, all the fun little things about Tech, and all the history that we have, and telling them all these weird stories about Georgia
yeah,
Tech is really easy to sell to them. I thought that they would be just bandwagon UNC and Tar Heel fans because we were, or NC State fans because we're growing up here, but
hmm
they've latched on because I watch 40 baseball games a year. And I watch, football games this season. And so they're watching with me. They're not watching I'm not watching UNC. I'm not
no,
watching NC State.
no,
I'm not gonna waste time on those teams.
no,
So I think that's what happens is it just rubs off on them like you did with all I think it's just kind of natural. The environment kind of raises the fandom. Will they go to Tech? Probably not, but it's they still enjoy going to the games and they don't root for UNC or NC State when we go to those baseball games. I can tell you
yeah,
that.
yeah,
So and it took a while, I didn't take them both till they were about 10. And then when they were about 10 years old, I thought that was a good age to start taking them to baseball and football games. So
yeah. That's about what I got. I remember my first game was how old was I? I was 11. And it was the first loss Tech had after they won the national title. And it was
Mhm.
a game at Clemson, and everyone was gone from the team. Like it was like that entire squad was out. It was bad quarterbacking. Everything was like Clemson beat the snot out of them. But it was a good age to feel that experience for the first time. So it is a lot. It's especially I mean I've been to all those three stadiums up there you mentioned in North Carolina. It's like it still is it can get pretty raucous. Duke, we'll see.
Mhm.
But like North Carolina people, they care a lot about it. NC State, I mean, sadly, I was there for the NC State loss this past year, and they were absolutely losing their
Oh yeah.
minds
I was there by myself. It was
when
pretty sad.
yeah, that game was the worst. Um, but no, yeah, it's super interesting. And yeah, they're involved. Like it's more fun to be involved with your dad doing his thing than
Hmm.
being the rebel and rooting for this thing you don't have any real attachment to. Like
Hmm.
you can
Hmm.
point back to the stories, and yeah, I mean, I like how you talked about it being a tactile traditions things we have. It's not. It's audio in some regards and it's visual in some regards, but it is like physical things you do. Like there are motions that you go through. Like it is not. I'm not going to go all the way to say cult like, but there is the elements that make you that like set it all apart. And make it unique for sure. And it's just old as
Mhm.
hell too. Like being old as hell helps a lot because it
Yeah.
goes back. It could be, as we mentioned with Winfield, like it goes back 4 generations, sometimes five. There's six. I
Mhm.
think there's sixth and seventh gen Jack and families out there as well. Um, so once it takes root, it stays. That's for sure. It does not move far. Um,
Mhm.
so it's a good way to think about it. Actually, do you have anything on your mind?
Well, I wanted to get to talk about this baseball season because you watched 40 of these games during the course of what was ended up being like a 60, almost 70 game season this year.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess from your perspective, thinking about how the course of the season went, and especially just experiencing a lot of that through television, maybe not being able to come down to the ballpark a lot. What was that experience like, and what was your opinion of the team as they progressed through the season?
Yeah. So set my tech baseball back, like I went to Omaha 2006. So I got to feel the highest of the high of tech teams in the last 20 years, and that was pretty amazing. And this team is way better than 2006. It's a way better team,
Yeah.
just to be blunt with you. I mean,
Hmm.
on the batting side, right? The pitchers, we had some solid pitchers in 2006. Blake Wood was really good. Um, Even Duncan, he was our Sunday starter. He was good, but yeah, just the top of the lineup to the bottom of the lineup, you just can't compare. I mean, it was such a solid team, so it was just so fun to watch, and that's what really got my kids. This season got my kids more excited about Tech ever because it was a fun team to watch.
Yeah.
We went to
Yeah.
the ACC championship games in Charlotte, and I told my son, I was like, "Hey, here comes Zuckerman." He's like, "All right, we're ready," and we moved to the outfield just to get a home run ball, and the freaking team record ball landed 10 feet from us. If you watch the replay,
Oh,
you'll see me standing up and my son just runs into me because he's trying to get the ball. So the team record ball got grabbed by some little middle schoolers that it just left the stadium immediately after.
oh, damn.
The team media guy came around looking for it. And but yeah, it was just this team watching them this season it was a real treat because, there's the consistency, the fact that they were in every game, like the Wake Forest game where they came back 10 runs. Every
Yeah.
game they were in because all you had to do was get past the starter. Once you
Yep.
got past the starters, melted against that lineup. And it was just so fun to watch them. I mean, there's so few. And I went to all the UNC games at Chapel Hill. That was where I was like, ugh, maybe we got a
Yeah.
weak schedule. Maybe we're a paper tiger. I know you were talking about this earlier, and it reminds me a little bit of the Tech football team too. I was feeling like, oh boy, are we a paper tiger? And then we went on Sunday and we beat them. And Mason Patel had a great play at the end of the
Yeah.
game in that game, right? And I was like, okay, maybe we redeemed ourselves a little bit in my mind, right? And then we beat them in the championship game too. So it was like I felt still relatively solid that we were going to get to Omaha again. I felt like this was the best shot we've had. It still is the best shot we've had in 20 years. It's the best shot we've
Easily.
had by far.
Yeah.
And um, so really disappointing, but also we lost to the national champion. That was on a super hot streak. And
Yeah.
they were the hardest pitching team. I mean, that's if you look at they did exactly what we struggled against, which they threw hard at us. And a lot of our guys just, especially the middle of the lineup, man, I think they were like 2 for 20 or something. You'd have to look at the stats, Jack. I
It
don't
got it
this.
got bad. Yeah. I mean, I remember that we
It
talked
was
offline some about this, but like Zuckerman just didn't look like he could just even square up a ball at any point. There was some hard Burris was still getting on base, thank God, a decent amount.
yeah.
But like Hernandez was having some blips of shining there. Lackey wasn't Lackey had some moments he could have converted that didn't convert. But I think as you
A lot of
mentioned,
double
like
plays too, right? I mean, we had a lot of double
yeah,
plays against Oklahoma, which is really atypical for us. So it was
right.
just
Yeah.
watching the season and how it ended. It kind of sucks because it was like I think also we had never blown a 3-run lead and we blew two. So it was like
Right.
there was
Yeah.
just so many oddities about that Oklahoma series. And I have conspiracies. There's conspiracies out there about what kind of AI technology is Oklahoma using. Who knows? But it was definitely disappointing. But I mean, I'm glad that they won the whole thing because that makes me feel a little bit better. It's a little bit of a what do you call that? A moral victory, but not a great one.
I mean, even
Um,
yeah, the fact it was North Carolina, Oklahoma, it was the only teams that beat us twice all season.
yeah, yeah,
Made it to the national championship. Like
yeah.
that is how that worked out. Thank God Mercer didn't beat us
A little
twice. That would have been
redeeming.
weird. Um, but
Yeah, the Mercer
nonetheless,
one is an odd bunch. Makes that trio very
that
strange.
That game was weird. That last game
Georgia
against them
State,
was weird.
Mercer, those two
You get they
middle of the
flip.
week superpowers.
They nailed us, man. I mean, thank God we got Mercer's best player out of that exchange, which seems to be how it is. Whoever's their best player between those two schools, we just take them,
Oh,
and then just the cycle repeats. It's a good ecosystem we have going on here.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, and you know what's also fortuitous? You want to talk about parallels? Matt Wieters, he caught the whole game. Game two that we got eliminated. Caught the whole game. And he told Danny Halls, like, this is legend. I don't know if this is true, so I might be speculating. But the legend is he told Danny Hall, I want to close. So he closed and he blew it. He blew the save.
oh,
So same thing. I mean, we had Tate McKee just threw what 100 pitches almost.
something
And then
like
he
yeah,
comes in, he wants to close, and he blows the save. So very similar, like star. I don't. You could say Tate McKee is a star. I would say he's the star pitcher for the team this year. But similar, very similar, like parallels to like what
yeah,
eliminated our two best teams was our star guys being exhausted and wanting to, put the team on their backs for that final pitch, and then
yeah.
you know.
Go
So
from there.
hindsight's
Yeah.
2020, but
I don't know. Yeah, at that point I don't know how many guys they trust in the bullpen either at that
yeah,
point. Because
yeah,
basically
I
everyone
know.
else was burned. Porter Burst was the only guy. It's like I don't think he was fully healthy at that point, if I'm not mistaken. And so it wasn't a full option coming out of the pen. But at that point, it's like, yeah, like you're not gonna throw Charlie Wilcox in that situation. Like there's too
Well,
many
they could
other
have let Dylan
guys.
Lloyd finish the game. What do you think? You didn't trust
I
Dylan Lloyd to finish?
I mean, I think Patel I would have let Loy go. Patel threw two guys too many.
Yeah.
There's a moment in that game where everyone in the building like understands, okay, this is when you would pull him. Like you could like the runners are creeping on, we still have the lead, but like it might just be at the tail end. He'd thrown more pitches than he had all season at that point. And the I could see the players kind of like just on the field, like kind of just waiting for James to like start walking to the mound, and then he just wasn't walking to the mound, and there was like an extra two or three beats that you could feel where there's just nothing happening. Is a little, at least for me, it was like there was some real suspense in the press box, and then James just walks out there, claps his hand, and says, "Let's go," and then it all came tumbling down from right there and then.
Yeah.
So it's and that's I mean, kind of relates to some of the stuff we've seen with Brent and his first years of being a head coach. It's just like it's the first time he's had to like deal with those decisions at this level too. Like that is as much as you can know from a baseball sense. Like that's still a thing that you got to go through at least once. And
Yeah, I mean, you got to learn
basically,
by doing, right? Like
yeah,
in those, and we talked pretty endlessly about for Brett's sake, like we talked pretty endlessly about the way that the way that he handled certain fourth down decisions or certain go no go scenarios or opportunities where he could have pushed the pace, gone for more points, et cetera, et cetera. I think the thing that you can say for Ramsey is, hey, like let's not make this same pitching management mistake twice. I think that's really what we're looking at, and not necessarily a okay, like this is a like a repeatable disaster. And we want to make sure that this is just a hey, like you made a mistake, you learn from it. Let's move on.
Mhm.
Let's keep the program on the track. Um, and that's really I think at this point all you can ask for. It's a different scenario than say like 2019 when that team, which to be fair, I think that's a very overseeded Tech team as the three national seed
yeah,
versus an underseeded
Mhm.
Auburn, who's like the I don't know, they were a two, but they should have been like the 16th best team in the nation. Like they come into the same ballpark. And in that case, it's Connor Thomas, current Brave Connor Thomas, I guess, as of this week, gets left in.
battery mate with fellow Jack and Joey Bart, also playing for
It's
the Braves right
2019
now.
all over again. It's 2019 all over again. But like he just gets in left in one pitch too long,
Mhm.
and then you start going through the motions of okay, well, do you bring in Tristan English? Do you have him close? Like you get into all these hypotheticals of, and then also there's the factor of hey, like it's in Connor Thomas's case, it's one pitch. It's like
Yeah,
that one pitch, 3 inches higher, 3 inches lower. That's the end. Like that's the end of Auburn's season versus hey, they play two more games and and have to and ended up advancing to the Super. So it's yeah, it's a even baseball, I guess, game of inches on that end.
Yeah, seriously. Um, let's do a little bit of draft stuff while we have John here. The draft just ended. Uh, as of now, this is who got picked amongst Tex players. Von Lackey went number 3 to the Twins. Drew Burris went 8 to the Oakland slash Sacramento slash Las Vegas slash North America Oakland Athletics. Jaron Advincula went to the LA Angels in the second round. Carson Curse went to the Diamondbacks in the second round. Alex Hernandez went to the A's in the fifth round. At that point, he was the fifth player by Tech to go in the fifth round. In the first 5 rounds, that was a program record. Parker Broach is staying home. He went to the Braves in the ninth round. Tate McKee went to the Tampa Bay Rays in the 10th. And then Porter Bursama, who we just mentioned, went to the Marlins in the 16th. Kent Schmidt, before the draft, announced he is staying for another season. And as of now, Will Baker, Justin Shadek, and Ryan Zuckerman are not drafted and very well could be coming back next season for one more go around, which at least in the Shadek situation, that's nice to have because I know we've been there. We've gotten a lot of hitting transfers and recruits in people, but the pitching, the arms hasn't been fully loaded, it seems. So Shadek being back was definitely good. But John, to your point of this being like an insanely good team, the draft results definitely speak for themselves too. It's like everyone knew there was a lot of guys you had to get that are going to be really good clubhouse guys. And Lackey, if the draft happens a month ago, probably goes number 1, and then stuff shakes out and leaderboards and stuff like that goes on, and he drops down to 3. But um, yeah, I would not be surprised if we see, I don't know, 4 or 5 of these guys at some point or another getting close to AAA or getting close to making a 40-man roster in, I don't know, 3-4 years probably. Lackey probably in 2 because that dude's crazy good.
Yeah. So yeah, yeah, if you look at that draft, I mean, that's a pretty solid draft for us and just, you know, just tells the story of how the season went and the hype that we got, justifiably hyped. Because our players were all hitting at insane levels this year. Um, so yeah, and it's kind of reminds you of when you look back at other underrated tech teams of like, guys, a lot of guys got drafted off of like the 2005, 2006 Georgia Tech defense football, and they
Mm-hmm.
all had huge careers later.
Yeah.
Like linebacker U, we were like linebacker U back then. All these John Tenuta linebackers that would come off of every little angle, and the blitz heavy defense we had years in the NFL. And that's why we were so good.
Yeah, they hit a point. It was nice. They had a yeah, the live, and it's been nice to see even recently, like still getting some defensive guys drafted as well. Not just, I mean, Haynes getting 6th round slotted, but just getting pre-signed by the Panthers. Hey, you might get Haynes King in your future here, at least in your nearby Carolina-ness. If he
Mhm.
does end up making, he probably won't end up making the starting job there in Carolina, but he does stay proximate, which
Mhm.
is sort of nice there.
Yeah.
But yeah. Um, before we wrap up, is there anything big picture you're looking forward to in tech sports in this next year? Because I mean, between baseball's in their momentum swing, new basketball coach, this is the first real reset for Brent Key that he's had since taking the job. I don't know if how much attention to volleyball, but they seem to be they'll probably have a better year this year as well. Softball has been doing decent. Is there anything in the grand world of tech sports that's impressing upon you right now that's what you want to look forward to this year?
Hmm. No, that's a good question. When I think about it, was we're coming up on the 20th national championship. We didn't talk about them. They won in Athens,
That's true. Yeah,
and
yeah,
so uh, again, that's something that would be on TV nowadays. We physically went there to that game. That's I'm just what could be good this year. It'd be nice to see the basketball team actually make the tournament
yeah.
finally
I agree.
again,
I
and
agree.
then baseball to pick up the momentum and just get to the regionals at least. I think that's a good, kind of what Akshay said earlier about not letting it just fall apart and just have
Right.
kind of spikes. Like so, let's just say if we can have a nice consistent NCAA tournament appearance streak, because that's what you got to do. You got to keep getting the tournament every year, and that's how you get to that's how you get to the College
Yep.
World Series. Is just keep getting your players high pressure situations, getting them experience.
Yep.
And on the football side, it's like just finishing the season. I mean, this is very similar to all of our best football seasons. Very similar. I mean, you look back at 2000. I mean, the best teams we ever had in my tech fandom was 2006. Totally fell apart. You know, we lost to Georgia, Wake, and then we lost. Well, Reggie Ball failed out, and then we lost to West Virginia in the bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
2009, same thing. Best team we ever had. Lost to Georgia on a drop pass, fourth down pass to Demarius Thomas, and then we lost the bowl game to Iowa. So just like this kind of like being able to finish, the bowl, figuring out a way to finish the season. That's how you get a really special season, which we really haven't had in football, honestly. I mean, we've had some ACC championships, but
It was
really
so
had a special
close.
season since 1990, honestly. I mean,
Yeah. No, I wish you were there for the Pitt game because I mean, yes, we lose that game and it sucks after about 10 minutes of real time play in that game, but the everyone in that stadium was like, we haven't felt it like this in so long. Like that
yeah,
Clemson game was kind of just like, hey, it's Clemson. It's a big day. It was a day game. People came out. It was good. But like Pitt was like okay, they've earned this. Now we're ready to see this finally hit that next level.
yeah,
And
And
that's when it would have hit the net. That's when you go from, hey, like this is just one of those weekends to, oh, like this defines the like a pretty significant portion of what happens on a national stage, right?
right.
They
Yeah.
win that game, they go to the ACC championship game, and then again, like similar to the NCAA tournament, you're getting yourself as many lotto tickets as possible, as
Yeah.
many times to put your stake in the ground in terms of how far you can go in the tournament. So
Mhm.
James Madison doesn't happen without us because if we win that game, we're in the ACC title game. Duke is very much not in the ACC title game, and then someone better than James Madison's winning the conference and can get that weird 12 seeds situation that the college football playoff is so scared to ever happen again that they change the rules again. And I have a 45-minute rant about that I won't do right now, but nonetheless, yeah, no, so much of the last year's narrative hinged on that game, and they just blew the doors off of us in that first quarter, and
NC
that was it.
State really too. I mean, NC State
Yeah,
and Pitt were both just we are what we thought we weren't.
right. Yeah, yeah. The defense was not. Yeah, just so much decent defensive stuff that just didn't pan out there.
No,
So
I mean, I said it in the beginning. We might be going too long here, but it was like I just felt like we had like an SMU schedule. I was like, man, we can sneak into some big games here. This
mm-hmm.
schedule is very weak,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and we
it was
just
the it was the year. It was the year. Yeah. No, yeah, this I think we'll talk. I mean, we'll get into later stuff in the podcast as the months go, the next month and a half or so. But early impressions as I keep reading the schedule is like it feels like that 7 to 8 win kind of year for us. Like you'll win a couple of those toss up ACC games, you'll lose a crummy one somewhere in there, you'll get an up, you maybe beat Clemson again in a shocker. Who the hell knows? But it feels like, and I mean Alberto Mendoza. I don't think there's any reason to think he's not going to be competent either. Like Brent's been very specific about bringing in bigger dudes on defense for sure, but like just not dealing with people that are not going to win you football games. Which is it's nice to have a guy that's like, yeah, I'm not willing to do projects right now. Like he'll have some projects, like the number that Vandenberg was a project for sure. Jamal Haynes ended up being one as well, but like they seem to be much more aggressive about bringing guys in the door that can play now, which is
yeah. That's
really
NIL for you, though, right?
seriously, yeah, that's a whole different ball game. So, um, I think that's all I have. Actually, any last bits before we cut this off?
well, I mean, John, I just want to thank you for your time and say this has been an awesome talking to you for an hour here, and like it's always a great day when we can talk to one of sort of our forefathers in terms of
Mm.
blogging here. So I really appreciate the opportunity here.
Yeah, thanks. It's always fun
But
to talk about tech.
whether it makes us grind our gears or jump for joy, yes, one way or another, it's always fun. Thank you, John. Y'all can find us at fromtherumbleseat.com, not whatever that website that Winfield made back in 2007 or 6 or whenever that was. You can find us at FTRS blog on Twitter and Blue Sky, just from the Rumble Seat on Facebook. We're going to start doing football preview stuff on the website in the next couple weeks here. We're going to get going there finally. If we were kind of lazy, I'll be honest. You can find this podcast wherever you find your podcast or on YouTube as well if you just want to listen straight up there. find section 103 and use our code at FTRS for 10% off your first order there. And they've got new stuff in the new shade of gold. Whether you like it or not, they've got it. So enjoy it there. For us here from the Rumble Seat, thank you for listening. Go Jackets.